Hi everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel and to my Instagram TV or IGTV for those who watch this on Instagram. If you're new here, please go down, subscribe to the channel and make sure you leave a like for this video. And for Instagram, just make sure you follow us and leave your comments there so that we can actually interact with you and engage even better. Today, I want to focus on some things that have come as a result of my internal reflections and some experiences I've had over the past few months. And this I'm going to discuss by sharing some stories through certain themes. This week, I'm talking about the power of patience, the purity of perseverance, and the path to perfection. Number one, the power of patience. The power of patience is something that I have learned both in my early schooling life, in my high school, and even in my current situation as a professional working in the communications field. How does the power of patience come in? As a young person, my father worked in Nairobi, my mother lived in the village, and so the dynamics around that was some of us were definitely going to be living with my mother in the village and others were living with my dad in Nairobi, based on the fact that some of them were elderly and going to university, but also some who were lucky, like my firstborn says, who actually did all his schooling in Nairobi. And even at that young age, I got to learn about the power of patience. So there's this thing we used to look forward to at the end of every term, where my dad would decide whether we are going to Nairobi or not. And as a kid and someone who's been shown Nairobi, there is excitement that came with waiting for that call, waiting for when he would show up and say, oh, I'm taking all of you back with me to Nairobi. That ride in the Akamba bus was something everyone looked forward to. And the chips in Nakuru, I don't know if it was a Shell petrol station or whatever that was, but the power of patience comes in the fact that I learned earlier on that if all you thought about was that day and you were not willing to wait, for the day to come, to do what you needed to do up until the day came, then you are going to face some serious disappointment. If you put your head down, did well in school, helped around at home, made sure whenever you were called upon you were available, you would not even realize it, but the term would end, you'd be happier, and you would just, be surprised to hear your dad came, and the first thing out of his mouth was, I think all of us should go and, enjoy our Christmas in Nairobi this time. And it never really, figured for me at the time, but then looking back now, I see why. It was it was a lesson. It was something that was really important to understand. Being able to invest your time in the present, be patient, persevere, and make sure that you're ready for when the opportunity comes. This leads me to my next point, which is the purity of perseverance. When you talk about perseverance, sometimes people relate it with struggle, with hardships, and perhaps even pain. But there's some purity in being able to persevere. There's some purity in being able to go through some things and hold your head up high and look toward a future that has better things as compared to the present, what you currently are going through. And the reason why I say this is I went through a period in my high school where I was in a school I did not want to be in, not because of anything, but just because the bullying was insane. We were being beaten senseless every Friday. I tried to communicate this with my parents, but at that time, I think a lot of the people didn't really understand what you meant, and people took it that some of us who came from Nairobi were also soft. And the deputy at the time at the school was also very good at convincing parents of your ills, being that you don't even perhaps have any. And so the purity of perseverance came when it became very difficult to survive in this institution, and I tried everything, but it was not happening. And so one of the things I decided to do was to try and see how to make friends and how to survive, even as I looked to get my grades up, because at that time the bullying was so bad, my grades had gone all the way down. And so I got myself a few friends. I found my way to survive until the third year. And in the third year, it became worse. But the efforts I was making, my behavior change and my attitude was what helped me to be able to convince, I think, my parents at the time and my siblings to be able to actually take action about this. And of course, it was because of other things that happened in the school, including some people who really got hurt as a result of the bullying. Remember, we had 13 dormitories, 13 prefects for those dormitories, class prefects, the school captain, and all these people who would, prevail upon Form 1 and Form 2 students every Friday, what they called Members' Day, and would beat people senseless. And so that perseverance would lead me to another school at the end of my third year. And it was tough because when I was leaving this school, the only way I could get to any other school was to repeat Form 3. So I did 5 years in high school. And so when I went to this other school, I went with the mindset of, I want to give these people the best version of myself, the pure version of myself, so that they could see that what those other people saw was wrong. And it didn't take long before the principal of the other school noticed that I had leadership qualities. I was a good student. I was a bit smarter than everybody thought. Not that I was the smartest. But then it led to a lot of things. It led to me being able to, be given responsibility as first was a class captain, a class prefect, and then eventually I became the school head boy up until the time that I graduated. And I think even my siblings and my parents came to the realization that whatever I was saying back then may have had some weight, but the purity of being able to persevere and leave with all the marks, all the pain, and go to a different place and present your purest form to a different group of people so they could see what was not being on the other side is a big lesson that I learned. The third thing I would want to talk about is the path to perfection. And a lot of people don't believe in perfection. Why? Because they say it doesn't exist. And no one has ever really met perfection, in my view. I think even those people who painted the Mona Lisa still felt like they could have added a brush here or a tweak there. But the reason why I talk about the path to perfection is not to say that I know anything about perfection, but to tell you that having that mindset, being able to think about something that's perfect and chasing that will ensure that you get something that's really, really close to it. You don't have to get perfect, but have that as a destination and you'll find yourself on the path to perfection. Why am I saying this? With everything that I do, I try as much as possible to make sure that I give it my best. It may not be the best according to everybody else, but for me as an individual, I make sure that I put in every little skill that I have, every little strength that I have, everything I could master. I pour it onto whatever it is I'm doing, just to make sure that it's the best version of what I could produce. That, my friends, is the path to perfection. A lot of people will argue with this video and say that they know what perfection is and they know how to achieve it. I would say that sometimes you may not necessarily achieve perfection, but it doesn't mean you cannot work towards, being able to achieve something close to it. So those are some of the things that I wanted to share today.